round about 350 BC, everything from Egypt and Turkey all the way east to the easternmost part of what is today Iran was part of the Persian Empire. It was one of the first just major world empires on the stage. It dwarfed the Babylonian Empire that had come before it. And the Persian Empire just made the terrible mistake of getting way too close to Macedon and Greece. When the Persian king crossed the Hellespont, that narrow land bridge that connects Turkey and Greece, and annexed all of what was then Thrace, he invited hell upon his head. Philip III of Macedon, who's Alexander the Great's father, united Macedonia and the city-states of Greece and really set the stage for all that his son Alexander would do. And Alexander set out with these unified Greek forces as the liberator of all the Greek colonists and the Greek cities that had fallen under Persian rule. So around about 334, this young man of 23 sets out at the head of the army and pushes the Persian forces back out of Europe and out of most of Turkey. King Darius III just cannot seem to stand up to him and keeps getting pushed back. When Alexander has recovered all of what is now Turkey, he set his sights south and continued to destroy Persian power and replace it with his own power, all through Syria, Israel, Egypt, and then, having accomplished all of that in a mere 2 years, returned to a position in easternmost Turkey, fought Darius's army again, defeated him again, and sent him fleeing to the eastern parts of his own empire, where he would eventually be killed by his own lieutenants. And Alexander just never stopped. There just wasn't a border that seemed far enough east to suit him. So he took his army all the way to the Indus River, all the way to the easternmost part of Iran and a bit further, and unified all of it, however briefly, under Greek hegemony. And he did this in these 4 short, well, let's expand that to 6 short years, by planting Greek colonies throughout the area that he had covered. And each of these Greek colonies was in effect a replica of Athens with a Greek constitution. And one of his kind of genius moves was to invite local elites into the roles of citizens, the citizen roles of these cities, and expose them to Greek education and really seek to be their, to say partner would be too innocuous, but to involve them in his rule of their area, of their regions. So he was the opposite of xenophobic. He really wanted to blend his armies with local elite cultures and create a unified empire, a culturally unified empire, in the course of which, however, he also spread Greek culture, Greek philosophy throughout this region, not himself personally, of course, but as a result of this blending and the massive movements of population that would be facilitated because this was all united under Greek rule. Alexander, however, died at the age of 33 without a viable heir. He had one living son, but that poor son didn't stand a chance against the 4 generals that Alexander left behind, each of whom wanted his piece of empire. And this is also something you'll encounter throughout Daniel 7 through 11, this splintering of the great kingdom of the Greeks into four parts. And these four parts are the kingdom of the Ptolemies in Egypt, the kingdom of the Seleucids in Syria and Babylon, the kingdom of Antigonus, and the kingdom of Lysimachus in Asia Minor and Greece proper. And so these four kind of minor kings all began to war against one another, seeking to get the largest piece of Alexander's empire they could. However, even though the empire was divided into four, it was still fairly culturally unified. So the spread of Greek language, Greek literature, Greek culture, continuing to invite local elites to participate in this infusing, this blending of cultures, continued throughout the lands that the successors of Alexander ruled.